On today's episode, I jump around a bit, do a quantum leap, and create some wicked photography for a magazine front cover. Here's how. Play tape.
And cut.
Has the stuntman shown up yet? So we've all seen those selfies on Instagram. You know the ones. Grab a camera, grab a box, and start thinking outside of it. Let's do this. Okay tubers, let me show you my setup. Really simple today and cheap. It's just a one light setup. What? Call yourself a pro? Okay, come with me. Background. It's cloth, ironable, looks like concrete, which is great for urban shots because you wouldn't want a concrete wall in your living room. Next up, key light. Powerful little sucker, 200 watts in the size of a speed light. I mean, it's like Mike Tyson, this thing. Ow! It's got the interchangeable studio bulb on the front for a nice spread of light, shooting into a white parabolic umbrella. Parabolic? £30. 30! Speedlight bracket, standard reflector. So I'm shooting tethered, or sort of. I'm sending the live feed from the camera into a bog standard TV using an HDMI cable so I can pose, check myself out, and review the images as I go along. Okay, camera settings. We're on aperture f8. It's a 14mm wide angle lens, manual focus, so we're gonna dial in the distance at around 70 centimeters to give us a sharp image front to back, ISO 200 and white balance 5600 Kelvin. Finally, shutter speed 160th of a second. Whoa! Back up, hold the phone. 160th of a second, I hear you say. Aren't you jumping around like Bruce Lee? Surely the shutter speed should be a thousandth of a second. Here's a quick concept to get your head round if you're brand new to flash photography. Come with me. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate shutter speed versus action photography. 160th of a second, just like inside. Let's see what happens. Blurry as right? So to get a clean, crisp action shot like that, you need to be at least 800 to 1000th of a second on your shutter. Now let's try it with some flash. I'll decrease my ISO to 50, I'll increase my aperture to 22, so we can get an exposure with no ambient light. I'll demonstrate, then we'll put this baby on. So the conclusion is, with flash photography, you can freeze the action not with the shutter, but with the flash. Is that the ice cream van? Okay, time for a quick edit. A simple color grade, let's go. So we have our image open in Photoshop. We also have the Wired magazine logo, and I've already put that on its own layer, so we'll just switch that on. And we want to get rid of all the whites in this logo, so we're going to head up to Select and Color Range. And with the eyedropper tool, we're going to select the whites. Fuzziness we'll keep around 140, and we'll OK that. So that's now made a selection of all the whites, and we're going to make a layer mask of that. So we're going to head down to the Add Mask icon, and then we're going to choose a brush, and we'll set that to a black brush. And with the mask selected, we're just going to reveal my head and face, so the text is behind me. So now we want the YouTube logo into the picture, so we're going to drag it onto the image and we're going to place it with the transform tool over the field monitor. And then with the distort tool, we're going to drag the corners to match where the monitor screen should be. Okay, let's now make a layer mask of that. So next up, we need to reveal the sun visor from underneath the YouTube logo. So with a black brush selected, we'll start to paint out and reveal the sun visor underneath. A neat trick that you can do to create a straight line with a brush tool is create a dot and then another dot, but holding the shift key. This creates a straight line. And we'll just continue down here and get rid of these bits. Okay, we'll rename that YouTube. We'll create a new layer and we're going to create a shadow on the screen itself to make it look a bit more realistic. So with the pen tool selected, we're going to create a path around the screen, then make a selection, 1 pixel radius, and then with a black brush and hardness at 0%, we'll just in the corner paint in some black. And we'll reduce the opacity to around 80%, rename that screen shadow. Next up, we're going to create a color balance adjustment layer. With the shadows, we're going to introduce some blues around +5. And then in the midtones, we'll increase the cyans by around -15. Highlights, we'll do the same with the cyan. And a touch of green. That's looking good. Next up, we're going to do a curves layer, and we're just going to create some dodge and burn here. Rename this burn, and with a brush selected, hardness at 0%, and we'll invert the layer mask with Control or Command I, and we'll just start painting in some shadow areas. So a little before and after. Next up, we're going to do the dodge layer. So we'll create another curves adjustment layer. We'll rename this dodge, and then we'll increase the curve. We'll change the mask to an invert with Command or Control I, and then we'll just start painting in some highlights. So I'll do a quick before and after, and that's looking quite nice. So I'm quite happy with how this image is looking now. So I'm going to stamp down the image using Control, Alt, Shift and E, and that's stamped into a new layer. And then I'm going to convert it to a smart object. And this little symbol says we're now a smart object, so we'll head up to Filter, and then we're going to head into Camera Raw Filter. Okay, first up we're going to increase the whites a touch, and also the shadows I'm going to increase to around +15. Clarity we're going to increase just a little bit to +15, and saturation we're going to decrease to around -10. Then we're going to head into the HSL sliders, and with the saturation on the oranges and yellows we're going to increase to around +40. And with the hue of the yellows, we're just going to increase into more of an orange. With the luminance on the yellows, we'll just increase that to around plus 15 as well. And the cyans, we're just going to increase a little bit on the blue slider. And a little before and after, which is looking great. Lastly, we're going to just decrease the saturation on my face a touch. So with the local brush, we're going to decrease the saturation to around minus 35 and increase the blues in temperature, sharpness, and that's all looking lovely. A little touch of whites. That's just sorted out my skin tones. And finally, I'm going to sort out the colour of that sock. So I'm going to head up to the hue saturation adjustment layer. With the eyedropper tool selected, we'll just sample the sock colour and we'll reduce the saturation 100% and invert the mask layer with Control or Command I. And with a white brush, we'll just reveal the desaturated sock underneath. And we'll do a before and after holding the Alt key on the background layer. And there you go. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up, think about subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. And cut! I can't believe I had to do all those stunts on my own.